Jamal Roberts!
He stood on the stage, smiling through tears, as millions of votes confirmed what the nation already felt. Jamal Roberts wasn't just a contestant, he was the voice of a generation. A former gym teacher from Meridian, Mississippi, now crowned as America's newest idol. Confetti rained, the crowd roared, and yet, behind the glittering moment was a story few expected. Because while most winners go home to parades and praise, Jamal went home to something else entirely. Rumors, resistance, and even threats. Yes, you heard that right. The man who made America cry with his voice reportedly found himself dodging digital daggers from his own backyard, and it didn't stop there. When his hometown offered him a symbolic key to the city, Jamal turned it down, setting off even more backlash. What could lead someone to reject a gesture of honor after achieving a dream millions chase? The answer, as we've learned, is far more heartbreaking than anyone imagined. But before this idol faced rejection, he was a teacher with a secret dream. Long before stadiums screamed his name, Jamal Roberts was echoing a different kind of command. Line up, kids, 5 laps around the gym. A humble PE teacher in Meridian, Mississippi, Jamal lived a life of structure, whistles, sneakers, and school bells. But behind that clipboard and those daily drills was a dream pulsing like a silent drumbeat. Music was a hobby for Jamal. It was therapy, ambition, and faith bundled in melody. For years, he auditioned for American Idol only to hear not this time. Yet he never stopped showing up. Between dodgeball games and lunch breaks, he rehearsed. Between paycheck to paycheck, he hoped. It wasn't until season 23 that everything aligned. This wasn't just another try, it was the try. When he stepped onto the Idol stage, there was no spotlight glare in his eyes, just focus, just fire, just decades of waiting finally breaking through. And while America saw a rising star, his students were watching their gym coach turn into a headline. But with every high note came higher stakes. Jamal Roberts didn't just win American Idol, he made history. Garnering 26 million votes, he set a record in the ABC era, becoming the first black male winner in over 2 decades, since Rubin stuttered in 2003. It was a crowning moment, but with that crown came a weight few could see. On live TV, Jamal held back tears as his daughters, Harmony, Lyric, and Gianna rushed the stage. But beneath that joyful chaos was a shift already in motion. In the span of one night, Jamal went from coach to icon, from local to legend. But fame isn't just a dream, it's a deal. And sometimes the cost comes with no receipt. Cameras clicked, contracts loomed, and the world now expected Jamal to not just sing, but to inspire, perform, and represent. The pressure was immediate, the transition brutal. Friends turned into fans, fans turned into critics, and privacy, gone. He had chased this dream, but now the dream was chasing him. And what came next was something no Idol manual could have prepared him for. After a victory of that magnitude, most winners get a hero welcome. Balloons, banners, barbecue. But when Jamal returned to his roots, the hometown warmth was complicated. Laurel, Mississippi, a city near his birthplace, offered him a prestigious honor, the symbolic key to the city, a gesture meant to celebrate his rise. But instead of posing for pictures, Jamal said no. And that decision, it sparked a wildfire. Online forums lit up, comment sections boiled over, and suddenly the Idol winner was being labeled ungrateful. But Jamal broke his silence, revealing that he had received threatening messages, hate mail, and even thinly veiled threats directed toward his family. Not from strangers on the internet, but allegedly from people not far from home. The very place that should have lifted him up had, in some corners, turned on him. Jamal wasn't rejecting the honor, he was protecting his peace. Sometimes the stage is safer than your own street. And for Jamal, that realization stung deeper than any critique from a judge. For Jamal Roberts, the hardest decision didn't come on stage, it came after. In the quiet weeks following his win, he made a heartbreaking choice. He officially stepped away from teaching. I couldn't go back, he shared in an interview. Not because I didn't love it, but because everything changed. Overnight fame shattered the normalcy he once clung to. Every hallway became a photo shoot. Every Target run turned into a fan meet. And in a school filled with kids who once saw him as coach, he suddenly felt like a stranger. The whispers, the cameras, the expectations, it all made returning impossible. Teaching had been his anchor, his passion, and his peace. Letting it go felt like losing a part of himself. But he had to choose, stay in a past that no longer fit or step fully into a future he barely understood. And as doors to world stages opened, the one to his classroom quietly closed, but the voice inside him, louder than ever, especially when it came to one special track. In the summer of 2025, Jamal released a track that caught everyone off guard, not with fireworks but with raw honesty. Titled simply Mississippi, the single became his emotional compass. It was soulful, stripped back, and deeply personal. A tribute, yes, but also a quiet reckoning. The lyrics hinted at pride, sorrow, disappointment, and resilience, sometimes all in the same verse. Fans praised the vulnerability, but some critics wondered, was Jamal throwing shade at his roots? Was this song a subtle "thank you and I forgive you" rolled into one? When asked, Jamal smiled and said, "It's just how I feel." No press release, no clapback, just a melody soaked in lived experience. And in those 3 minutes, it was clear Jamal wasn't just telling his story, he was translating it. The applause may have faded, but this track proved one thing: his voice didn't need confetti. It just needed truth. And the next chapter was about to test that truth even harder. Fame knocked once with Idol, but now it was pounding. In a move that proved Jamal's star was still on the rise, he joined the upcoming The Boy Is Mine tour alongside R&B royalty Brandy and Monica. Also on the lineup, Kelly Rowland and Muni Long. For Jamal, this wasn't just a performance, it was an arrival. Gone were the talent show vibes. This was arenas, tour buses, and nightly standing ovations. But with every spotlight comes a shadow. Jamal now had to balance rising fame with the emotional weight he still carried. Would the crowd chant louder than the doubts he brought from Mississippi? Could he perform without cracking under pressure? So far, he's handled it with grace, father first, artist second. But one thing is certain, the stakes are no longer about winning a competition. They're about lasting beyond it. And for Jamal, the music was just beginning to speak louder than the noise. Jamal Roberts' story is often told in confetti, high notes, and golden tickets. But beneath the glitter is a man who traded a stable life for an unpredictable storm. He didn't just win a title, he gave up a job, faced threats, and lost a certain innocence that teaching once gave him. The tragedy isn't in his success, it's in the sacrifice, the loneliness of sudden fame, the pain of being misunderstood by those who once called you neighbor, the quiet goodbyes that come when your dream finally comes true. And yet, despite it all, Jamal keeps going. Singing, touring, parenting, living, because maybe the real power in his voice isn't the range, but the fact that it still rises even after being pushed down. Whether the world remembers him as a winner, a teacher, or a man who turned down a key, his story remains a lesson in grace, grit, and the cost of being chosen. And as the music fades, one can't help but wonder, was the victory really his, or did something else win instead?